The champagne flutes clinked as my friends toasted my 30th birthday at Rosemary's, the upscale café I had been dying to try. Through the laughter and chatter, I caught my mother whispering urgently to my father. Her expression made my stomach tighten. Dad nodded, then leaned toward my brother Jake. "While everyone's here, go change the locks at her apartment." Jake's eyes widened, but he nodded, taking my spare keys before slipping away. The celebration continued awkwardly until Jake returned an hour later, his face ashen, paler than the crisp white tablecloth. He whispered to our mother, "Mom, there's someone living in her apartment." I overheard, and my perfect birthday shattered into confusion and fear. I had been looking forward to turning 30 for weeks. After my breakup with Tyler 3 months ago, I needed something positive to focus on. We had dated for 2 years, and I thought we were heading toward marriage until I discovered he had been lying about his job, his finances, and even his past. The betrayal left me weary and withdrawn, but I was slowly rebuilding my life. My career as a marketing executive was thriving, and my new apartment in downtown Seattle felt like a fresh start. When my parents suggested celebrating my birthday at Rosemary's, the cafe with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor that had a 6-month waiting list, I was touched. They had planned so far ahead. The evening started perfectly. My mother, Diana, looked elegant in her navy dress, and my father, Robert, was in rare form, telling jokes and making everyone laugh. My brother, Jake, arrived late, apologizing about traffic, but bringing a beautifully wrapped gift. My 4 closest friends completed our table of 8. Allison, my roommate from college; Paige, my colleague from work; Devon, my neighbor; and Cassidy, my oldest friend from elementary school. The meal was everything I had hoped for. We ordered appetizers to share, fresh oysters, artisan bread with truffle butter, and roasted vegetables with local goat cheese. The conversation flowed easily, though I noticed my parents exchanging glances throughout the meal. Mom kept checking her phone under the table, and Dad seemed distracted, his eyes darting to the entrance periodically. "Everything okay?" I asked my mother when she checked her phone for the 3rd time during the main course. "Of course, honey," she said, but her smile didn't reach her eyes, "just making sure everything is perfect for your special day." As our plates were cleared and we waited for dessert, I watched my mother lean close to my father. Though she spoke quietly, I could see her lips form urgent words. Dad's expression grew serious before he nodded and turned to Jake. "While everyone's here," he said in a low voice, "go change the locks at her apartment." Jake looked confused but didn't question it. He stood making an excuse about needing to make a call for work, and my father discreetly handed him my spare keys. I kept a set at my parents' house for emergencies. Jake left quickly and an uncomfortable silence fell over our table. "Is something wrong with my apartment?" I asked, alarmed. "Nothing to worry about," Dad assured me, though his voice was strained, "just a precaution. Your mother noticed some strange activity on your security app." I didn't have a security app. Before I could question this, Allison diverted my attention by presenting her gift, a beautiful leather journal. The others followed with their presents. Cashmere scarf from Paige, concert tickets from Devon, and a framed photo collage from Cassidy. My parents seemed increasingly anxious as the hour passed. Dad kept checking his watch, and Mom jumped each time the door opened. I tried to enjoy myself, but their behavior made it difficult to focus on the celebration. When the waiter brought out a decadent chocolate cake with 30 candles, everyone sang "Happy Birthday." Just as I leaned forward to blow out the candles, my phone chimed with a text message. I glanced down to see a message from an unknown number. "Happy birthday, enjoying the celebration without me." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. The message felt intrusive, almost threatening. I showed it to Allison beside me. "Probably just a wrong number," she suggested, but her expression mirrored my unease. As we cut the cake, I noticed my mother staring at the entrance. I turned to see Jake walking toward us, his face alarmingly pale, his steps unsteady. He reached our table and leaned down to whisper in our mother's ear. "Mom, there's someone living in her apartment." The cake suddenly tasted like sand in my mouth. Jake's words echoed in my head as he sank into his chair beside Mom. His hands were shaking slightly as he reached for his water glass. "What do you mean someone's living in my apartment?" I demanded loudly enough that my friends stopped their conversations and turned to us. Jake glanced at our parents, clearly unsure what to say. Dad placed his hand over mine. "Let's talk about this privately, Sonia," he said quietly. "No," I insisted, my voice trembling. "If something's happening at my apartment, I need to know now." My mother sighed, looking defeated. "We didn't want to ruin your birthday, but we've been concerned for a few weeks now." Concerned about what? My heart was racing. Dad glanced around the table, then spoke in a low voice. "Your mother noticed some odd things when she visited you last month. Small things out of place that you wouldn't have moved. And last week when you were at our house for dinner," Mom continued, "I noticed you seemed different on social media. The posts didn't sound like you." I shook my head, confused. "I barely post anything." "Exactly," Mom said, "but there have been daily updates for the past 2 weeks. Photos of your apartment, your coffee mugs, your bookshelf, things only someone inside your home would see." A chill ran through me. I didn't post those. Paige pulled out her phone. "These posts." She showed me my Instagram account filled with recent photos I had never taken, my breakfast table, my bathroom counter with products arranged differently, close-ups of my personal items. "That's not me," I whispered. "I haven't posted anything in weeks." "We know," Dad said gravely. "And then things started disappearing from our house." "What things?" "Your childhood photos," Mom explained. "The album from your high school graduation. Old diaries I kept in the attic. At first I thought I had misplaced them, but too many items connected to you were missing." Jake looked ashen. "Mom and Dad installed a small camera in your apartment yesterday while you were at work. They were worried someone was breaking in." "You did what?" I was shocked at the invasion of privacy, even if they meant well. "We were concerned," Mom defended, "and we were right to be. The camera caught someone in your apartment today while you were at work." Jake pulled out his phone, his hands still shaking. "I saw the footage when I got there to change the locks. Then I looked around and he trailed off looking sick." He turned his phone toward me. The video showed a glimpse of my living room. A figure moved across the frame. A man wearing what looked like my grey cardigan. The footage was grainy, but I could see him moving comfortably through my space, touching my things with familiarity. "There's more," Jake said quietly. He swiped to another video showing my bedroom. The man was arranging something on my dresser, a collection of my photos, jewelry, and personal items arranged in what looked like a shrine. My stomach lurched. "Who is he? How did he get in?" "We don't know," Dad said. "But Jake found evidence he's been staying there while you're at work, eating your food, using your shower. He has a sleeping bag in your closet," Jake added, his voice hollow. "And he's been collecting things." "What things?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Jake hesitated, looking at our parents for guidance. "Tell me," I insisted. "Hair from your brush," he finally said. "Use tissues, notes you've written, receipts from your purse. He's been documenting your life, Sonia. There's a wall in your guest room covered with photos of you, some from your social media, others taken without your knowledge. At work, on the street, at the gym," my friends gasped in unison. Cassidy reached over to squeeze my hand. When I realized what was happening, Jake continued, "I called the locksmith right away. He's changing all the locks now, but Sonia," his voice broke. "This person knows everything about your life, the shrine he's built. It's like he believes you're in a relationship." The realization hit me like a physical blow. Someone had been living in my space, wearing my clothes, touching my things, creating some fantasy relationship with me without my knowledge. I felt violated in a way I couldn't articulate. "Did you see him?" I asked Jake. "No, he wasn't there when I arrived, but I could tell he just left. There was still steam in the bathroom from a shower and a half-eaten sandwich on the counter." I pushed my chair back suddenly. "I need to go there, I need to see." "The police are on their way," Dad said, placing a gentle hand on my arm. "I called them as soon as Jake contacted us." As if on cue, 2 uniformed officers appeared at our table, followed by a woman in plain clothes who introduced herself as Detective Harlow. My birthday dinner was officially over. Detective Harlow was a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor. She took preliminary statements from all of us at the restaurant, focusing particularly on when I had last been in my apartment and whether I had noticed anything unusual recently. "I left for work at 7:30 this morning," I told her. "Everything seemed normal, but now that I think about it, I've had this feeling lately that things weren't quite where I left them." "What kind of things?" Detective Harlow asked, writing in her notebook. "My shampoo bottle was in a different spot in the shower, books rearranged on my shelf. I thought I was just being forgetful or stressed from work." My parents recounted their concerns and explained about the camera they had installed. Jake described what he had found at my apartment, including the sleeping bag and the disturbing collection of my personal items. I'd like to go there, I said firmly. I need to see for myself. Detective Harlow nodded. We'll escort you. The crime scene unit is already there processing evidence. My friends insisted on coming with me for support, but Detective Harlow advised against it. The fewer people at the scene, the better. We don't want to contaminate potential evidence. We agreed that my parents and Jake would accompany me while my friends would go to Allison's apartment to wait for news. Cassidy hugged me tightly before they left. Call us as soon as you know anything, she said. We're here for you, whatever you need. The drive to my apartment was tense. I sat in the back of Detective Harlow's unmarked car, sandwiched between my parents, while Jake followed in his own vehicle. My mind raced with questions and fears. Who would do this? How long had it been happening? What did they want from me? When we arrived, 2 police cars were parked outside my building, their presence both reassuring and alarming. Several of my neighbors stood in the lobby, watching curiously as we entered with the police. My apartment door was open, revealing officers in latex gloves moving carefully through my space. A woman was dusting the door frame for fingerprints. Another officer was photographing my living room. Stay close to me, Detective Harlow instructed as we entered. At first glance, nothing seemed obviously disturbed. My furniture was in the same place, my decorations untouched. But as I moved further inside, I began to notice subtle differences. My throw pillows were arranged differently. Books had been rearranged on my shelves, organized now by color rather than by author as I kept them. In the kitchen, my coffee mugs were in a different cabinet. Refrigerator contained food I hadn't purchased, a brand of yogurt I didn't eat, energy drinks I never bought. Miss Adams called an officer from my bedroom. You should see this. Detective Harlow led us down the hallway. In my bedroom, an officer was examining my closet where a sleeping bag was neatly rolled in the corner alongside a small duffel bag. He's been living here, I whispered, the reality hitting me again. While I'm at work. There's more, the officer said, pointing to my dresser. What I had glimpsed in Jake's video was even more disturbing in person. My jewelry box had been emptied, its contents arranged in a pattern on my dresser top. Photos of me were positioned around them. Some I recognized from my social media, others clearly taken without my knowledge. Me entering my building, getting coffee at my regular shop, sitting at my desk through my office window. Most disturbing were the items I recognized from my bathroom: my hairbrush with strands still attached, used cotton swabs, an old toothbrush I had discarded weeks ago. Ma'am, called another officer from my guest room, you need to see this too. The guest room had been transformed. The bed was pushed against the wall, making space for what could only be described as a shrine. One entire wall was covered with photos of me spanning years. Some were so old they must have come from my parents' house. Pictures from high school, college, family vacations. Among them were handwritten notes detailing my movements. Sonia leaves for work at 7:30 a.m, returns around 6:15 p.m. Thursdays she has dinner with friends until 9:00 p.m. Sunday mornings she goes running at 8:00 a.m. Oh my God. My mother gasped beside me. An evidence technician was carefully removing small devices from various spots around my apartment. Behind picture frames, under the coffee table, beside my bed lamp, hidden cameras. Detective Harlow explained grimly, "We've found 6 so far." I felt physically ill. In the bathroom too, the detective nodded. "I'm sorry." Jake put his arm around my shoulders as my knees threatened to buckle. "Sonia, look at this," he said, pointing to my laptop on the coffee table. Detective Harlow carefully opened it, wearing gloves. My email account was open, as was my Facebook page. Next to the computer was a notebook filled with login information for all my accounts: email, banking, social media, even my work portal. "He's been impersonating you online," Detective Harlow said, responding to messages, making posts. She showed me evidence of conversations I'd never had with colleagues and friends, comments I'd never made, photos I'd never shared. "We need to know if you can identify who might be doing this," Detective Harlow said. "Is there anyone who has shown unusual interest in you? Ex-boyfriends, co-workers, neighbors?" I shook my head, overwhelmed. "I can't think of anyone who would do something this extreme." "What about Tyler?" my father suggested after how things ended. "He moved to Chicago," I said, And this isn't his style. He was a liar, not whatever this is. Detective Harlow made a note. We'll check on his whereabouts anyway. As the evidence collection continued, I felt increasingly violated. This person hadn't just invaded my physical space. They had infiltrated every aspect of my life, creating a false version of me online while documenting my every move in real life. You can't stay here tonight, Detective Harlow said. We'll need several hours to process the scene, and even after that I wouldn't recommend returning until we've apprehended the suspect. I nodded numbly. I'll stay with my parents. One more thing, Detective Harlow said, gesturing to a technician who held up a journal in an evidence bag. We found this under the mattress in your guest room. It appears to be a detailed account of your daily routines alongside fantasies about a relationship with you. She didn't elaborate, but her expression told me enough. We'll need to keep this as evidence, but you should know that based on the entries, this has been going on for at least 3 months. 3 months since right after my breakup with Tyler, someone had been watching me, living in my space, touching my things for a quarter of a year, and I had never known. As we prepared to leave, Detective Harlow assured me they would have officers watching my building and my parents' house. We'll find who's doing this, she promised. In the meantime, we'll need to check all your accounts for unauthorized access and change every password. I nodded, but I already felt exposed in a way no password change could fix. As we walked to the elevator, I glanced back at my apartment door, now marked with police tape. The home I had loved, my private sanctuary, had been corrupted. The violation felt absolute and inescapable. Whoever was doing this hadn't just invaded my apartment, they had invaded my entire life. 2 days after my birthday, I sat in Detective Harlow's office at the police station, still trying to process everything that had happened. I had spent the intervening time at my parents' house, sleeping fitfully in my childhood bedroom, jumping at every sound. The police had continued their investigation, collecting evidence from my apartment and analyzing the electronic devices they'd found. We've made significant progress, Detective Harlow said, sliding a folder across her desk to me. We managed to pull fingerprints from several items in your apartment that don't match yours or any of your family members or friends we've tested. She opened the folder to reveal a photograph of a man in his early 30s with light brown hair and unremarkable features. I stared at him, searching for recognition. His name is Martin Walsh. Detective Harlow continued. Does that name mean anything to you? I started to shake my head, then stopped as a memory surfaced. Wait, Martin. There was a Martin who worked briefly in the IT department at my company about 6 months ago. That's him, Detective Harlow confirmed. Martin Walsh was employed at Accelerate Marketing for approximately 3 weeks as a temporary IT support technician. He left suddenly in April with no notice. The face in the photograph was vaguely familiar, but I couldn't recall any significant interaction with him. I barely knew him. He might have helped with a computer issue once or twice, but we never had a real conversation. According to your colleagues we interviewed, Martin took a special interest in your technical problems. He volunteered to help with your department specifically and accessed your computer multiple times for updates and security checks. As Detective Harlow spoke, fragmented memories came back to me. A quiet man who had stood too close when explaining something on my computer. His eyes lingering too long when he thought I wasn't looking. The way he had appeared at the break room whenever I was there. I remember him being a little awkward but nothing alarming, I said. He seemed harmless. We believe he used his position to install monitoring software on your work computer, Detective Harlow explained. This would have given him access to your passwords, personal information, and communications. From there, he could have accessed your home network when you logged in from your apartment. I felt sick at the thought. So he's been watching me since April. Based on the evidence in his journal, his fixation began during his time at your company. The surveillance escalated after he left his position there, and the physical intrusion into your apartment appears to have started around 3 months ago. Right after my breakup with Tyler, I murmured, yes. From what we can tell from social media records, Martin was monitoring your relationship status. When you became single, his behavior intensified. Detective Harlow slid more photographs across the desk. These showed Martin's apartment, which the police had searched with a warrant. The images were disturbing. One wall was covered with photos of me, similar to what they'd found in my guest room. Another showed a collection of items I recognized as mine, a scarf I thought I had lost, a coffee mug from my office, even mail that had gone missing from my mailbox. "There's more," Detective Harlow said gently. She showed me screenshots from what appeared to be Martin's social media accounts. What I saw made my blood run cold. Martin had created an elaborate fiction of a relationship between us. There were manipulated photos that appeared to show us together at restaurants, parks, even on what looked like a vacation. In some, my face had clearly been edited onto someone else's body. In others, he had simply stood near enough to me in public places to create the illusion we were together. His posts told the story of our relationship, how we had met at work, fallen deeply in love, and were now planning a future together. The comments from his friends congratulated him on finding someone so perfect. "This is insane," I whispered. "None of this happened. I barely knew he existed." Unfortunately, this type of delusional behavior isn't as rare as we'd like to think. Detective Harlow said, "Martin appears to have constructed an elaborate fantasy relationship with you, one that in his mind is completely real." "Where is he now?" I asked, suddenly fearful he might be watching me even at the police station. "That's our current concern," Detective Harlow admitted. "Martin abandoned his apartment 3 weeks ago. The landlord reported he stopped paying rent, and when they checked the unit, many of his possessions were gone. Based on what we found in your apartment, we believe he essentially moved in with you, staying there while you were at work and leaving before you came home. So you don't know where he is?" "Not yet, but we have alerts out for him. His photo has been distributed to patrol officers, and we're monitoring his financial transactions and social media for activity." As we continued talking, Detective Harlow's phone rang. She excused herself to answer it, her expression growing serious as she listened. When she asked, making notes, "And you're certain it was addressed to her specifically? Keep it sealed for evidence." "Well, be right there," she hung up and turned to me. "A package was just delivered to your parents' house, addressed to you. The delivery service confirms it was sent yesterday from a local shop." My stomach dropped. "Martin, we can't confirm yet, but it seems likely. The officers stationed outside your parents' house intercepted it. They haven't opened it, but it appears to be flowers." Less than an hour later, I stood in my parents' kitchen as Detective Harlow carefully opened the flower arrangement that had been delivered. It was an elaborate display of red roses, at least 2 dozen. The card attached read, "I miss you already. Don't worry, I know you're staying with your parents for now. I'll be watching over you until we can be together again." The flowers were beautiful, but all I felt was terror. Martin knew where I was, he was watching me even now. "We'll increase security here," Detective Harlow assured me, "and we're getting closer to finding him. This delivery gives us another lead." As she bagged the card for evidence, I stared out the window at my parents' quiet suburban street, wondering if Martin was out there somewhere watching the house, watching me. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just an invasion of privacy. Martin Walsh had created an entire relationship with me in his mind, and in his diluted reality we belonged together. Now that his fantasy had been discovered, I had no idea what he might do next. A week after my birthday, I attempted to return to some semblance of normal life. My apartment was still a crime scene, so I continued staying with my parents, but I couldn't hide away forever. After days of deliberation, I decided to return to work, reasoning that a public office building with security was probably safe. Detective Harlow assigned an undercover officer to follow me to and from work as a precaution. Martin remained at large, though the police had tracked down former co-workers and acquaintances who described him as intense and obsessive, but not overtly threatening. My first day back at the office was surreal. My boss had been informed of the situation and had arranged for security escorts between floors and removed my contact information from the company directory. My colleagues were supportive but clearly uncomfortable, unsure how to address what had happened. "We've changed all your access codes," the head of it assured me, "and we've swept your computer for any monitoring software." Despite these precautions, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I found myself checking over my shoulder, constantly scrutinizing every unfamiliar face. At the end of the day, the undercover officer escorted me to my car. As I reached for the door handle, I noticed something tucked under the windshield wiper, a folded piece of paper. The officer immediately called for backup and carefully removed the note using gloves. "You looked beautiful today." It read, "The blue blouse brings out your eyes. I've always loved that about you." I had indeed worn a blue blouse that day. The note was submitted for fingerprint analysis, but Martin had been careful. The paper was common printer stock that could have come from anywhere, and he had apparently worn gloves while handling it. That night, back at my parents' house, I received a text from Alison asking if I had been trying to contact her through Facebook Messenger. "You've been sending me strange messages all day," she wrote, asking about you and saying weird things. Despite changing my passwords, Martin had somehow regained access to my accounts. When we checked, we found he had been messaging several of my friends pretending to be me, asking what they had heard about the situation and whether I had mentioned anyone named Martin. 2 days later, my credit card company called about suspicious charges, flowers sent to my workplace, lingerie purchased online, and a reservation at an expensive restaurant for 2 under my name. As the days passed, Martin's efforts to infiltrate my life grew more aggressive. Packages arrived at my parents' house, gifts I never ordered. My friends received emails from my account with disturbing attachments, manipulated photos showing us together. Detective Harlow believed he was escalating because his fantasy had been disrupted. "He's trying to maintain the connection he believes exists between you," she explained. "In his mind, you two have a relationship that's being interfered with by others." The situation reached a new level of danger when Alison called me in tears. Someone had broken into her apartment and left photos of me scattered across her bed along with a threatening note. "Stop keeping her from me. He thinks you're helping keep us apart," Detective Harlow said when I reported this. "He's expanding his targets to include people close to you." A restraining order was issued, though it felt like a flimsy protection against someone who had already shown such determination to violate boundaries. The police increased patrols around my parents' neighborhood and advised all my friends to upgrade their security. 2 weeks after my birthday, Martin finally showed himself. I was at a meeting with clients in our company's conference room when the receptionist called to say someone had delivered lunch for me. Before security could intervene, a man dressed as a delivery worker had left a bag at the front desk and disappeared. Inside was my favorite sandwich from a café near my apartment along with a note. "I remember everything you like. No one will ever know you like I do." Security footage showed it was indeed Martin, though he had worn a cap and sunglasses. By the time police arrived, he was long gone. The next day he appeared again, this time creating a scene in the lobby of my office building. He demanded to see me, claiming he was my boyfriend and that my family was keeping us apart. Security removed him, but not before he shouted that he would save me from those controlling my life. With each passing day, Martin's behavior became more erratic and concerning. Detective Harlow warned that stalkers often escalate when they feel their connection to their target is threatened. "We're doing everything we can to find him," she assured me. "But in the meantime, we need to make sure you're safe." The police suggested I relocate temporarily to a hotel under an assumed name. My parents would tell anyone who asked that I had gone to stay with relatives in another state. The night before I was scheduled to move to the hotel, I went upstairs to pack a few things from my old bedroom at my parents' house. As I opened my closet, I noticed something seemed off. My childhood memorabilia boxes had been disturbed. Pictures that had been in albums were now tacked to the inside of the closet door. Photos of me as a teenager at prom, at graduation. With growing horror, I realized Martin had been here in my parents' house. I backed out of the room slowly, then ran downstairs to tell my parents. As my father called Detective Harlow, my mother checked the security system they had installed after my birthday. "The upstairs motion sensor was triggered yesterday afternoon," she said, her voice shaking. I thought it was just the cat. When Detective Harlow arrived with a team of officers, they found more evidence of Martin's intrusion. A small camera had been hidden in my bedroom, similar to those found in my apartment. My hairbrush had strands freshly pulled from it. My journal had been read, the most recent entries responded to in different handwriting. Martin had been in my sanctuary, my childhood home, violating the very space where I had sought refuge from him. That night, as officers searched the neighborhood and processed evidence from my room, I sat in the living room unable to sleep, jumping at every sound. My phone chimed with a text message from an unknown number. They can't keep us apart forever. I'm always with you even when you can't see me. Soon we'll be together properly. I promise. I showed the message to the officer stationed in our living room, who immediately reported it. But we all knew the truth. Nowhere felt safe anymore. Martin was watching, always watching, and growing more dangerous with each passing day. After the discovery that Martin had been inside my parents' house, Detective Harlow implemented a new safety plan. I was moved to a secure apartment building with restricted access and 24-hour security under a different name. The location was known only to Detective Harlow, my parents, and 2 officers assigned to my protection. My life had shrunk to this new reality. Working remotely from a sterile apartment that wasn't mine, vigilant about every sound, every shadow, I felt like a prisoner, though Detective Harlow reminded me these were temporary measures until Martin was apprehended. "We're getting closer," she assured me during our daily check-ins. "He's made several mistakes in his escalation. It's only a matter of time." But time was something I felt slipping away. Each day in hiding was another day Martin controlled my existence. I couldn't live like this indefinitely, jumping at shadows, suspicious of every stranger. During my 3rd week in the secure apartment, I began researching stalking cases, learning about others who had experienced similar violations. I was struck by how many victims described feeling powerless, how the legal system often failed to protect them until something tragic happened. I started compiling a comprehensive file of everything related to Martin's stalking: screenshots of messages, photos of unwanted gifts, transcripts of my interviews with police. I documented timeline patterns, analyzing when and where he had appeared, looking for any insight into his movements. "This is good," Detective Harlow said when I showed her my research, "but please leave the investigation to us. Your job is to stay safe." But staying safe wasn't enough anymore. I needed to reclaim some control over my life. When a regional marketing conference was announced in downtown Seattle, I saw an opportunity to test the waters of returning to normal life. It would be a controlled environment with security and hundreds of attendees, surely safe enough for a day out of hiding. Detective Harlow was reluctant but agreed under strict conditions. I would be accompanied by an undercover officer, would check in hourly, and would stay only for the morning sessions. The conference was held at the Grand Pacific Hotel, its ballrooms transformed into presentation spaces for industry professionals. For a few hours I almost felt normal again, engaging with colleagues, participating in discussions about marketing trends. No one there knew about my situation, and the anonymity was refreshing. During the lunch break I excused myself to use the restroom, assuring the undercover officer I would be quick. In the elegant hotel bathroom, I was washing my hands when I noticed a hotel staff member enter and begin checking the stalls. There was something familiar about his movements, the way he held himself. When he turned, I found myself face to face with Martin Walsh. He had lost weight since his ID photo and his hair was darker, but his eyes were unmistakable, intense, focused entirely on me. "Sonia," he said, his voice soft with wonder. "Finally, we're alone." I reached for my phone, but he stepped forward quickly. "Please don't," he said, "I just want to talk. They've been keeping you from me, filling your head with lies." My heart hammered in my chest as I calculated the distance to the door. "Martin, the police are looking for you. You need help." His expression darkened. "I don't need help. I need you to stop letting them control you. We were happy before they interfered. We were never together, Martin," I said carefully. "We barely knew each other at work." He laughed, a chilling sound in the tiled bathroom. "That's what they've made you believe, but I have proof of our relationship." He pulled out his phone, showing me the manipulated photos I had already seen in police evidence. "Look at us. Look how happy we were." I tried to keep my voice steady. "Those pictures aren't real, Martin. They've been altered." His face contorted with anger. "Why are you saying these things after everything I've done for you? I protected you from that liar, Tyler. I made sure you were never alone after he hurt you. You've been watching me breaking into my apartment, taking my things. That's not protection, Martin, that's stalking." "No," he shouted, slamming his hand against the counter. "I've been loving you. No one has ever loved you like I do. I know everything about you. Your favorite breakfast, which side of the bed you sleep on, how you organize your closet by color. I've learned everything to make you happy." His intensity was terrifying. I needed to stay calm until help arrived. Surely the undercover officer would check on me soon. Martin, I need you to listen, I said quietly. What you've been doing is not love, it's a violation. You've broken into my home, stolen my property, impersonated me online. These are crimes. Crimes, he repeated incredulously. I've given up everything for you. My job, my apartment, my friends. I've devoted my entire life to us, and this is how you repay me. He moved closer, blocking my path to the door. They've poisoned you against me. Your family, your friends, the police, they're the ones keeping us apart, but I'm going to fix this. We're going to leave together right now. He reached for my arm and I jerked away instinctively. His face hardened. Don't make this difficult, Sonia. I don't want to hurt you, but I will do whatever it takes to save our relationship. In that moment, I saw the true danger I was in. The delusion that had been building in Martin's mind for months had reached a breaking point. In his reality, I was being held against my will, and he was my rescuer. Any action I took to resist would only reinforce his distorted narrative. As he reached for me again, the bathroom door burst open. The undercover officer appeared, weapon drawn, ordering Martin to step back and put his hands up. What happened next was a blur of motion and shouting. Martin lunged toward me, screaming that he wouldn't let them take me again. Hotel security rushed in along with unformed officers who had been stationed nearby. In the struggle, Martin was subdued and handcuffed, still shouting that he loved me, that he would find me again, that no one could keep us apart. As they led him away, Detective Harlow arrived, putting a steady hand on my shoulder. "Are you hurt?" she asked, her eyes scanning for any sign of injury. I shook my head, though my entire body was trembling. "He was going to take me somewhere," I managed to say. "He thought he was rescuing me." "It's over now," she assured me. "We've got him." But even as Martin was placed in a police car outside the hotel, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't truly over. The look in his eyes as they led him away, a mixture of betrayal and determination, told me that in his mind this was merely a setback in our love story. That night, back in the secure apartment, I received one final message from an unknown number. "This changes nothing. I know where you are, I'll always find you. No walls can keep us apart." Soon Martin had been arrested, but his obsession remained, and somehow, despite all precautions, he still had a way to reach me. The weeks following Martin's arrest were filled with legal procedures, psychological evaluations, and endless security concerns. Despite being in custody, Martin had found ways to continue his campaign of terror. Letters arrived at my parents' house, at my workplace, even at my friends' addresses, all expressing his undying love and promising we would be together soon. More disturbing was the realization that Martin had apparently enlisted others to help him. An unknown person had been seen photographing my parents' house. My brother Jake received threatening phone calls warning him to stop interfering. Even Detective Harlow found her car vandalized with the message, "Leave us alone," scratched into the paint. During a preliminary hearing, I had to face Martin in court for the first time since the hotel confrontation. He appeared disheveled, but eerily calm, his eyes never leaving me as I testified about the months of stalking and violation. When I described finding the shrine in my apartment, he actually smiled as if proud of his devotion. The judge granted a permanent restraining order and ordered Martin to undergo psychiatric evaluation, but his attorney argued successfully for bail. With no prior criminal record and promises to stay with a cousin in another city, Martin was released pending trial. I felt the fragile security I had regained crumble when Detective Harlow delivered this news. "We'll maintain surveillance," she promised, "and his ankle monitor will alert us if he comes within 5 miles of your known addresses." "But he knows all my patterns," I said, the fear rising again. "He knows where I go, who I see. An ankle monitor won't stop him if he's determined." That night, unable to sleep, I had a realization. I had been playing defense for months, reacting to Martin's moves, hiding, running, living in fear. What if I took control of the situation instead? The next morning I asked Detective Harlow to meet me, not at the secure apartment or the police station, but at a quiet café I had never visited before. "I want to set a trap," I said without preamble as she sat down across from me. She raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening." "Martin knows my patterns because he studied me for months. What if we use that against him? Create a pattern he can predict. Make him think he can find me alone but have officers waiting instead." Detective Harlow considered this. It's risky, he's unstable, potentially dangerous. More dangerous than breaking into my childhood bedroom. More dangerous than threatening my friends. More dangerous than trying to abduct me from a hotel. I leaned forward. I can't live like this forever. Jumping at shadows, hiding from my own life. This needs to end one way or another. After much discussion and planning, Detective Harlow reluctantly agreed to a modified version of my proposal. We would create a digital trail suggesting I was returning to normal life. Social media posts about missing my apartment, checking in at locations I used to frequent, mentioning plans to collect some belongings. Meanwhile, police would maintain surveillance on Martin and monitor any reaction to this digital bait. If he took the bait, they would be prepared to intervene before he could reach me. My marketing background proved useful as I strategically crafted a narrative online that would be irresistible to Martin. I posted about feeling constrained by security measures, missing my independence, needing space from my overprotective family. I shared photos of my empty apartment building, commenting that I missed the view from my balcony. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. Martin appeared to be complying with the conditions of his release, staying with his cousin, attending psychiatric appointments. But Detective Harlow's team, monitoring his internet activity, noticed he was obsessively checking my social media, searching for patterns. The breakthrough came when I posted about plans to spend a weekend at a friend's lake house to finally have some peace and privacy. Within hours, Martin had booked a cabin at the same lake using a credit card belonging to his cousin. He's taken the bait, Detective Harlow confirmed. Now we set the final stage. We selected an isolated cabin that could be easily monitored and secured by police. I would appear to arrive alone on Friday evening while officers would be stationed throughout the surrounding woods and in adjacent cabins. As Friday approached, my resolve wavered. What if something went wrong? What if Martin managed to reach me before the police could intervene? But the alternative, continuing to live in fear, watching my loved ones threatened, was worse. I arrived at the lake house as planned, making a show of carrying bags inside, turning on lights, moving visibly past windows. Then I moved to a secure room at the back of the house while officers took positions throughout the property. Hours passed, night fell. I sat in the secure room watching camera feeds from around the cabin, my heart racing with each shadow that moved outside. Detective Harlow remained in constant contact through an earpiece. Movement at the train, she whispered at just past midnight. Stay where you are. The exterior cameras showed a figure approaching cautiously from the woods, keeping low, avoiding the main path. Martin had come just as we predicted. He circled the cabin twice, checking windows, testing doors. Finding the back door unlocked as we had planned, he slipped inside. He's in. Detective Harlow confirmed. We're moving on my signal. Through the security feed, I watched Martin move through the darkened cabin, touching my planted belongings, breathing deeply as if inhaling my scent. He approached the bedroom where I would normally be sleeping and slowly turned the handle. Now, Detective Harlow commanded. Lights blazed throughout the cabin as officers rushed in from every entrance. Martin was caught completely by surprise standing in the bedroom doorway, a knife visible in his hand. He did not resist arrest, seeming almost relieved that the chase was over. As officers led him away, he looked directly at one of the cameras as if he knew I was watching. It was always going to end with us together, he said calmly. One way or another. The trial that followed was grueling but conclusive. Psychiatric evaluation determined Martin suffered from erotomania, a delusional disorder causing him to believe we were in a loving relationship despite evidence to the contrary. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, the journal documenting his stalking, the shrine in my apartment, the hidden cameras, the threatening messages, the attempted abduction at the hotel, and finally his arrival at the lake house with a weapon. I delivered a victim impact statement that left the courtroom silent. Martin Walsh didn't just invade my home, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. He invaded every aspect of my existence. He stole my privacy, my security, my peace of mind. He forced me to flee my own life and live as a shadow of myself. He terrorized not just me but everyone I love. I looked directly at him as I continued, but he failed in his ultimate goal. He wanted to possess me to control my reality. Today I reclaim that reality. I reclaim my life. And I hope that by standing here speaking these words, I help ensure that no one else becomes a victim of such obsession. Martin was sentenced to 15 years in prison, with mandatory psychiatric treatment followed by lifetime probation and permanent restraining orders protecting me and my family. In the year that followed, I slowly rebuilt my life. I moved to a new apartment in a secure building. I changed my phone number, email addresses, and social media accounts. I adopted a rescue dog named Max who barks at any unusual sound, a comforting sentinel. I also found purpose in my experience connecting with other stalking victims and advocating for stronger laws protecting those targeted by obsessive individuals. I created a support network that helped others navigate the complex emotional and practical challenges of reclaiming their lives after such violations. On my 31st birthday, exactly 1 year after the nightmare began, I hosted a small gathering at my new home. My parents, Jake, and my closest friends surrounded me as I blew out candles on a cake that represented not just another year of life, but a year of reclaiming my existence. As my friends laughed and chatted around me, I realized something profound had shifted within me. The experience had not broken me. It had revealed a strength I never knew I possessed. I had faced the darkest invasion of privacy imaginable, and had emerged not as a victim but as a survivor, wiser, more vigilant, but also more determined to live fully and authentically. The violation I experienced taught me that true security comes not just from locks and cameras, but from trusting your instincts, recognizing warning signs, and having the courage to fight back when threatened. Most importantly, it showed me that even in our most vulnerable moments, we have more power than we realize to reclaim our narratives and rebuild our sense of safety. I no longer look over my shoulder constantly or jump at unexpected sounds. I have reclaimed my right to peace, to privacy, to a life unburdened by fear. Martin took many things from me during those terrible months, but he could not take my resilience or my determination to thrive despite his best efforts to possess me. Have you ever felt that instinctive warning that something wasn't right, even when you couldn't explain why? That gut feeling that saved me might save you too. Trust your instincts, document concerning behavior, and never hesitate to reach out for help. If my story resonated with you, please comment below with your thoughts or experiences. Like and subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming adversity, and share this with someone who might need to hear that they're not alone in their struggles. Thank you for listening to my journey from victim to survivor. I wish you safety, peace, and the strength to reclaim your power whatever challenges you may face.